The Bison Basketball Show with NDSU head coaches Dave Richman and Jory Collins. The Bison Basketball Show is presented by Gate City Bank for a better way of life. And Pepsi.
Welcome into the Bison Basketball Show. I'm your host, Rob Hipp, as always joined by head coach Dave Richman. Coach, hard to believe, December rocking and rolling, and here we are again. How have you been?
Been great. As you know, we've been spending a lot of time together, Rob, but it's certainly been great to be back in Fargo the last few days and get these kids in their own bed and an important week for us with finals week coming in, but also preparation for the most important part of the year, and that's league play coming up.
Hard to believe that non-conference action already coming to a close here, and today we'll overlook 3 or 4 games, kind of seeing how things have been in that non-conference action, and just kind of getting started, you know, going back, looking at a few games, starting there with Crown College out of the gate, and you go through a few games. I know struggles early on, but you get a much-needed win versus Crown College. Just how's this early season been for you?
Well, it's certainly been challenging, and you know, we're speaking to the Crown game. It was obviously great to get a victory and to go into the locker room and celebrate those things. And a little bit feels like an eternity. I'm trying to go back and play that game over in my head here, Rob. But I'm great for the guys to experience some success, and you're seeing you know, Andrew Morgan and his presence down low. But I also was very impressed with Crown. They came out. You can tell it's a group that had some experience. Very unified group, but again, our guys, to their credit, were able to come out. There you're seeing a guy that Lance Waddles, that you know, a typical freshman, has had his ups and downs, but for him to experience some success, I think is going to be vital for us going forward.
Andrew Morgan in that game registering his first career double-double, a career high in rebounds in the contest. You've just talked about the process and how that goes. How has it been with a lot of these younger guys now starting to mold with some of your returners? Yeah,
I mean, the process is there, Rob, and sometimes that's really hard to see in the results. But you know, we've talked a lot about it being like a glacier. What you don't see below the water, below the surface, is forming, and it is forming in continuity. It's forming in experience. Now, you obviously do it for the results, and this Crown game and a few of these others lately here have been vital to experiencing and validating our process.
Bowden Skunberg, 19 points, 8 rebounds in that game. He's another young man that returns, and he's starting to show a lot of leadership characteristics.
You know, Bowden's been terrific, Rob, and we've really got him to settle into a role offensively. He's been outstanding defensively. At times, we've challenged the other guys. We can't have Bowden guard all 5 guys on the floor, but you know, you go back to the Portland game, and that rebound that he had was just terrific. He's been excelling from the free throw line, shooting it better from the perimeter. Could not be more excited about the progress that Bowden's made within our program.
And you go, when we start looking now after the Lobo Classic, I know a tough 3 games there, but then you head up to the Pacific Northwest, beautiful area to be, and you take care of business there in one of those games versus Portland, a tough Portland team who defeated Villanova earlier in the year. They also had close losses at North Carolina and Michigan State, but overall a good contest. Kind of felt like the communication and chemistry that we talk about so much off the court really starting to come together specifically with that game.
Yeah, no doubt. Our frequent flyer miles are up after being around, like you said, down in New Mexico all the way up to the Pacific Northwest. But you know, as terrific a win, obviously a big win for us this year. But even from a program standpoint, Rob, to your point, this is a team that had banged around with North Carolina and Michigan State in really close games. This is a team that had beaten Villanova. But you started to see, you talk about the process. The process means nothing until you validate it, and then you understand why you're going through it. And this was a much-needed victory for our guys. It was a collective victory. Bowden was terrific. Again, you started to see some glimpses of a healthy Damari Wheeler-Thomas. To Javis Miller, hit some really big shots. Jakari White did not shoot it right on point, right as he's making a shot. Did not shoot it great. I believe he was 1 for 6 from the night, but was great defensively with just extra effort. And extremely pleased with everything. Probably most importantly was our grit defensively.
Yeah, Bowden Skunberg, his second career double-double in that matchup. To Javis Miller, talked about him just having a solid game, and Bison having that 8-0 run there to pull away and secure that victory 67-62. Bowden again continuing to mature, and you talk about the run going down late. It was important. The team was down. They found a way to come out with the win.
Well, I think that was big for the young group, Rob, is we really handled adversity within. We had a lead. We had a pretty significant lead. We lost that lead. We didn't panic. We didn't get rattled. we continue to stay true, and we talk a lot of terms, of baseball terms, of just hitting singles, not swinging for home runs, which we've done in the past, trying to find that 6-7 point possession that's not out there. But that was a terrific collective group victory, and just a pleasure to be with the guys in the locker room and celebrate that afterwards.
It's about trusting in the process, learning that process, so many different keys, and then just the team chemistry continuing to build for this Bison basketball team. Good to go over, look at those two games, and a lot more action coming up. We'll step aside, take a break. We've got more on the Bison Basketball Show here with Coach Richman. We'll be back in a moment.
This one's for every sports fan who just spent the entire game explaining to someone the entire game. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar.
A better way of life is better days off and better nights in. Better hellos and better goodbyes. With locally approved, financed, and serviced home loans, Gate City Bank makes buying a home simple. Welcome home. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life.
Your local news informs and inspires. We share your stories of sorrow and hope. The stories that entertain, educate, and engage.
Your news at 5 starts.
We record the past and reveal the future. We tell the stories of your community with local news.
When it matters most, turn to the most watched, most trusted news team in the region, the news leader, WDAY News. More people turn to WDAY News, first on the scene for breaking news and major local stories. The best coverage of local weather, taking the guesswork out of your forecast. Everything you need to know. Turn to the news leader, WDAY News, weeknights at 6 and 10.
Another rock and roll weekend.
Burgers, better with Pepsi.
Welcome back into the Bison Basketball Show. Rob Hipp here alongside head coach Dave Richman. Non-conference play wrapping up and previewing some more games. It's a quick season. We know how things get rolling. Summit League right around the corner. But just wanted to go back and look briefly at Montana. I know a tough go of it versus a very talented Montana team. Got off to an early lead in that ball game. Just couldn't hold on. And Coach, you always mention there's just pain in the process sometimes.
Yeah, you had to do that to me, didn't you, Rob? I thought that those 40 minutes against Montana was a little bit of a microcosm of our non-conference to this point. And a slow start, terrific middle to the first half, a very disappointing and poor ending to the second half, or to the end of the first half, that I think really bleeded in some confidence into their group. And you could see the experience on Montana, and you could see the lack of experience on our part. We got away from doing the things that make us successful, and that's the growth. When we talk about process, that's the growth that's really needed, is being consistent, not getting bored with being great. And at times we got away from those things. At times we got away from being aggressive. We got a little cute instead of staying substantial, over style, and that cost us ultimately in the end.
Grant Nelson is one of those players, of course, coming back in that game after missing a few with a slight injury, but good to have him back and finishing up with 19 points and 6 rebounds. I asked you this before off of the TV side, but we'll ask you here on this show. He seems to be more vocal now, really embracing that leadership role. I see him in the team huddles, patting guys on the back. You see him talking. How has he started to mature into that role? Yeah, I mean, you've done a great job of pointing that out, Rob, and it's really even heightened as it's gone forward, and it's vital. We lost a lot of leadership last year, and somebody needs to step in and fill that void, and it can come from anybody. And Grant is a really introverted young man by nature, and he's challenged himself. He's got outside of his comfort zone, used his voice to help this young group along. And I think when you do that, I know when you do those things, better things happen to yourself. And Grant's coming. He's had an up and down non-conference based on some injuries and some sickness, but it'll be important to get him in the rhythm that we had him in
this past weekend as we head into league play.
Bowdoin Skunberg with 22 points in that ball game in the loss versus Montana, but then you kind of continue on. You get one more game before Summit League gets underway, playing a Waldorf college that comes in. Even though an NAIA school, you don't ever look at programs based on if they're NAIA, D2, 3, whatever. It's still a basketball game, and you take care of business of those guys. I think it was a good response having to come in saying, hey, we've got to show up, and hey, the Bison showed up huge against Waldorf.
Absolutely, and I was pleased with our focus, in particular in the second half. We had built a pretty significant lead, and we're able to continue to build on that. That's the growth that we need. Vital to, again, to your point, are we going to play better teams than Waldorf? Absolutely. But vital to experience some success as we go into league play. And going to be so important to take some of that success, understand what it's taken to find the minimal success that we've had from a results standpoint, and work towards conference play here.
Jakari White, another one of those players that just continues to grow and develop with this team, and several games in double digits. I like what I'm seeing from him as far as his just assertiveness, but even his aggressiveness out there, chasing down loose balls, creating turnovers for his team. How has he really started to grow now with your program?
Well, I can say this as a guy that played minimally as a JUCO player and coached a little bit of JUCO junior college. Takes a minute to understand the intensity, the focus, the effort needed, and Jakari is slowly starting to understand those things. He's a very talented young man with the ball in his hands. He's got a great ability to slide his feet and guard the ball. We're excited. We're excited where Jakari is, but we're more so excited about, the future and his progress within this program.
Other guys, Luke Yoder, seen him out there with a lot of action, and then, of course, Lance Waddle. And, man, the threes were just raining there against Waldorf. Did you kind of have that plan going in saying, hey, guys, you're open, take the shots? They were open. They took them.
Well, that's a little bit how we've built our offense lately. We feel like we have two dudes in Andrew Morgan and Grant Nelson, and some mix-up things that we can do with Josh Strite. And teams got to make decisions, and if they're going to double, that really opens some things up on the perimeter for some of our shooters. If they're not, we have shooters on the floor on the perimeter that can space it and for those big guys to go to work, and we need to continue to attack things that way, that inside-out toughness mentality for us.
You start looking ahead, and we don't want to look too far ahead. We always take each game 1-0, but Summit League play getting underway here before too long. Just what really excites you the most about finally putting that non-conference away, and now here it's time to start playing in the Summit?
Well, I think there's multiple things, right? And you and I were speaking earlier, just a rhythm and routine to life, and to be at home during the week and feel that vibe that is. But also, hey, the non-conference is great. It's exciting. It's challenging. It puts you in a lot of different places. But this is it. This is where your bread is buttered, so to speak. And this is preparation for the most important time of year in March. And we need to continue to grow and continue to do every day practices, film sessions, walkthroughs, be that better version of ourselves.
Coach, as always, appreciate your time. Looking forward to the action coming up here in Summit League action. So wrap it up with Coach Richman. We've got more on the Bison Basketball Show. Women's basketball coming up next with head coach Jory Collins.
This one's for every sports fan who just spent the entire game explaining to someone the entire game. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar.
This is Jack. Jack loves sports, and since he banks at Gate City Bank, he can show his spirit right on his debit card. Even better, Gate City Bank will donate $10 to his favorite local school. And when Jack's friends cheer on their favorite teams, those schools receive $10 too. Plus, Jack and his friends score every day with free ATMs worldwide. Now that's always a win. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life.
Inform has been your trusted local news source for more than 130 years. We are committed to providing our community with local news that's relevant, trustworthy, and accurate. But what sets us apart is our unique understanding of the Fargo-Moorhead community, because it's our community too. Get local news that works for you at inform.com.
For the best sports coverage, turn to the home of local sports, WDAY. for exclusive live games, analysis, and much more. There are more ways to watch than ever before. Turn to WDAY and WDAY Extra or subscribe online to WDAY Sports Plus for up-to-the-minute content you won't find anywhere else. Available on Inforum.com. Don't miss a minute of the action on the home of local sports, WDAY.
Another rock and roll weekend.
Burgers, better with Pepsi.
Welcome back into the Bison Basketball Show. Rob Hipp here, now with women's basketball coach Jory Collins. Coach, good to see you again. How have things been in your neck of the woods?
It's been good. Good to see you, too. It's been a long time.
That's an old Texas phrase, neck of the woods. I don't know if there's any phrase here in North Dakota.
We got that in Kansas, too.
All right, man.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Well, hey, excited to be here today and taking care of business to get started. We'll talk about that Power 5 win versus Minnesota, the third game of the season. 4 Bison reaching double-digit scoring in that contest. Just some early confidence out of the gate this season for your team.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about, our trip in August and kind of gave us a foundation of some chemistry. And, we rolled that right into the season. Played a tough Montana team on the road, came back and then got to host Minnesota. Super fun game. The fans were terrific. It was a great atmosphere. We have some Minnesota kids on our team, and just they were super excited for that game and should have been, and had multiple people play well in that game, enough to carry us.
Yeah, a little bit down early, not too much, but then just finding ways to stay after it, trusting the process, continuing on. And you have girls like Taylor Brown this season, just earning her career second double-double in that ball game. How has she grown with your program, Coach?
Yeah, Taylor comes in with a lot of experience. A big reason we wanted to get her. Just has a calming presence for our team. And, in that particular game, she was super juiced up to play her home state school, and double-double there for her, 10 big rebounds for her. We're really good when she's able to do that. You can see Binky and Taylor, combined for 30 points, 18 rebounds together against a Power 5 team. Just a heck of a job there by our 4 and 5.
Yeah, in basketball, we know a game of runs, a 7-0 run to close out the second quarter. That shows signs of maturity.
Yeah, that was a big spot in the game. We were able to get a poke steal there and a run out, and I think cut it to 1 right there, or maybe even take a 1-point lead at the half just with that last second shot. So that's kind of, when we've been playing well, Rob, we've been able to get some poke steals and been really good in transition, and that was a point in that game where it really mattered.
Again, good crowd at the Shill Center. Always appreciate the support of folks showing up and battling a Power 5 team, but then you go on and you play again that following Tuesday, another home game, another win, this time versus Northern Colorado, and Northern had the lead after 3, but the Bison pulling away in the 4th. Again, another run we talked about earlier, a 7-0 run in that ball game. Just talk about that play and continued play down the stretch.
Yeah, I was a little worried coming into this game, just about maybe an emotional letdown after the big win against Minnesota. And, it was a battle. I knew their style of play, playing some 2-2-1 into 2-3, was going to slow the game down a little bit. And it was back and forth for, like you said, 3 quarters. I thought we played a terrific 4th quarter in this game, and were able to, play inside out, find some holes in the zone. You see Elle Evans right there, just being able to attack a gap and get a pull-up. And once we started getting put back-to-back possessions together offensively with some good ball movement, just found some good opportunities and knocked some down against the zone.
Yeah, you just mentioned Evans. She finished up with 15 points. Talk a little bit more about her play. And again, I kind of keep asking the same question, but it's early on. How has she molded?
Yeah, she's been, just really good. There's things she's learning, I think, every time out on what she can do at this level, but it's not hard to see her out there and see her length and athleticism, and what she's able to do defensively for our team is outstanding. And she's putting it together offensively. When she does that, she's going to be a heck of a player for us.
Had another player coming up huge there, Abby Schulte, in her 3rd season with your program. They're scoring 13 points, 3 rebounds, and she's kind of became that leader in a way too, of course, for your team.
Yeah, and we need her to be. She's playing the 1 for us quite a bit here early, getting our team organized and, getting us situated out on the floor, doing a really good job with that. Had a big game there. We needed her to be good in transition and make some attacks before they got settled in their zone, and she did that.
A lot of success early on in the season here for this women's basketball program. We'll continue to talk more games to highlight, more when we come back here on the Bison Basketball Show.
This one's for every sports fan who just spent the entire game explaining to someone the entire game. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar.
This is Jack. Jack has a debit card from Gate City Bank. However, it looks like a little night ninja took off with his card, as they sometimes do. But lucky for Jack, he can freeze his missing debit card with a tap of his mobile app. And even if his card is stolen or lost for good, he can go to any Gate City Bank location to get a new card issued instantly. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life.
Catch all the NDSU Bison action with Bison Media Zone at Inforum.com. From live game coverage to post-game shows, podcasts, live chats, video blogs, daily articles, and more, Bison Media Zone is your #1 source for all things Bison. Follow the herd and find the Bison Media Zone at Inforum.com to catch your Bison sports news today and every day.
When severe weather strikes your community, be prepared with the WDAY Storm Tracker team.
Just that little dusting,
yes,
quite slick.
It can lead to temporarily whiteout conditions.
You do not want to test your speed here in conditions like this.
And don't forget to download our WDAY Storm Tracker app. You can use the QR code you see right on your screen there. There you can find the latest road conditions, forecasts for your area, and school closings.
For full coverage, turn to the WDAY Storm Tracker team.
Another rock and roll weekend.
Burgers, better with Pepsi.
Welcome back into the Bison Basketball Show. Always good to chat with women's basketball head coach Jory Collins. Had a chance to highlight a couple of games as we talked about Montana and then Northern Colorado. But, you know, we look ahead. Still a lot of basketball left and a couple of other games we wanted to highlight. You head out to Reno in the Nugget Classic. No casinos down there, though, Coach. It was all basketball.
We might have walked through a little bit. Hard to pass up some of those opportunities. But that was a great tournament over Thanksgiving there for us. Actually a place I've never been before, and I think a lot of our players hadn't either. Reno's a beautiful city. Great setup for Nevada. The tournament was awesome. Played some of our best basketball in that tournament. You know, really put it on Boise State there for a little while. And then obviously in this game, you know, maybe not our best team effort, but Heaven Hamling was phenomenal. I think this is the game she had 39 and just really carried us that day and was really proud of how she got him. I mean, we were in offense. It was in flow. Here you can see her just, you know, once you get a couple baskets, you're a little bit faster on the defensive end, poke steal for her and lay up. But really just made some timely shots. And, you know, to beat those guys on their home floor, the tournament host on the second day, was a really good win for us.
You know, and you go back and you look at this point in the season after that victory, 6-0 to get started, and you mentioned Heaven Hamling just a few moments ago, a blistering 39 points in that ball game, a career high for her, also hauling in the boards, and then sometimes it's easy to overlook on the defensive side with the steals. She had 3 steals in that ball game.
Yeah, I mean, she was really active on both ends, and she turned all those steals into points, which, you know, is always a plus as well. And you can see Elle Evans again is just always right there, has been for a freshman, been really consistent for us here in what she's been doing and somebody that we've been able to count on too.
Elle Evans with 10 points, 4 rebounds in that ball game versus Nevada. And you add to that one stat that's not up there on the screen, but a stat that we know of. How about 12 3-pointers on 29 attempts? The girls were feeling pretty hot from beyond the arc in that game.
Yeah, and a little bit of that is how we're being played. You know, people are giving us that a little bit, and we got to take them and knock them down. And you know, the games where we've had success, we've been shooting the ball well. And the games where we haven't, we've struggled from the 3-point line. And so that's an area for us that we got to keep dialing in on and keep getting shots up and shoot that ball with confidence.
I mentioned earlier just the runs, and they continued in this game as far as the basketball is a game of runs sometimes, and quite a few in that game. I know that you talked about earlier just getting out there, putting pressure, finding ways to get down and score baskets, but it seemed like at some points everyone was contributing when they were out there on the court.
Yeah, no question. And that's when we've been at our best. When we are playing with some pressure on the defensive end and turning defense into offense, that's when we've been able to have some bursts and, you know, reel off 6 or 8 point runs. When we've been a little stagnant on defense and kind of let them take it to us, then those runs don't show up near as much as we want. So that's something we've been emphasizing here early in the year, and we'll continue to do so.
You get off to that early start, 6-0, and then I know just a little bit of a rough stretch over the last 4 here for your squad, but you know, you get into that rhythm, you go up, and the game that we'll specifically talk about, the previous one, just versus Green Bay. Talk a little bit about that game, Coach.
Yeah, man, Green Bay was it was a tough game, and we knew that. You know, this stretch on our schedule of 6 straight on the road and finishing, you know, with you and I and Green Bay, those are 2 really good programs on the road in the same week. You know, we came out and played a good first half. I'll say a good first half because it was a 4-point game. I didn't think we played particularly great in the first half. Just really struggled to score and to execute against those guys, especially in the half court. And that's what the game ended up coming down to, is we just took some quick shots, you know, did some things out of character in that game and just didn't give ourselves a very good chance.
70-52 in that contest. Elle Evans, again, keep mentioning her, 13 points, 7 rebounds, but I also wanted to highlight some other players, such as Abby Draper, transferring in from Bradley, and she's just really starting to become a force for your team. How has she really started to work into your program?
Yeah, Drapes is starting to get more comfortable. We need to get her stretched out a little bit more. She needs to be close to a 20-minute-a-game guy for us, and she's been more 12 or 13. She's shooting the ball lights out right now. We got to find ways to get her more opportunities. She has great length and great size for us. We need a little bit more in and around the basket, but from the perimeter, she's been really good, and she's earning more minutes as we go.
You look, and you know, wrapping up non-conference play, just what has really stood out to you? What's been most impressive about the non-conference start for your program?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously getting off to a great start. You know, we're sitting here 6-4, and I would have preferred to be 0-4 and then run 6 in a row, you know, going into conference play. I think we're getting a really good picture of who we are and when we struggle, what we need to fix. When we're good, what does that look like? And those are things that we have to emphasize and try to get to over and over again. I love our team. I love the options that we have. We're still putting those pieces together in some situations to maximize what we have. But it's going to be a really good conference season for us.
Coach, excited about it. Things right around the corner. Summit League, the climb to the top of the summit, as we say, right there on the horizon. But looking forward to a lot of fun coming up the rest of this season, and good luck with you, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, this will wrap up the Bison Basketball Show. You can find full scores, tickets, information, more at gobison.com. As always, horns up and go Bison.
The Bison Basketball Show is presented by Gate City Bank for a better way of life. And Pepsi.
This has been an exclusive presentation from Learfield.
This one's for every sports fan who just spent the entire game explaining to someone the entire game. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar.
Teamwork, talent, dedication, leadership. These values build community, improve lives, and make a difference every single day. For you, for our neighbors, for our community, for a better way of life. Gate City Bank.
Catch all the NDSU Bison action with Bison Media Zone at Inforum.com. From live game coverage to post-game shows, podcasts, live chats, video blogs, daily articles, and more, Bison Media Zone is your #1 source for all things Bison. Follow the herd and find the Bison Media Zone at Inforum.com to catch your Bison sports news today and every day.